Hey there, this is Chad Young. My program is Neighborhood Watch, and this is my presentation for week 6 of MPA 560. As I said, my program is Neighborhood Watch, and of course, this is going to be a quantitative study, not a qualitative, because we're looking for results. We're looking to see whether or not this program is effective, and it's really qualitative is great, but we need measurements. We need to be able to state whether or not crime decreased. My experiment is going to be quasi-experimental. That's because for a couple of reasons. One, because I'm lazy. No, because we're not going to go out and try to get a test neighborhood that doesn't have it and then do a longitudinal study over that. We're going to simply, because Neighborhood Watch has been around for so long, really we're probably at saturation. We're not going to encourage a bunch of new neighborhoods to join up or create Neighborhood Watch programs. So given that we're at saturation, and as you'll see in the next slide, we've got enough study areas that we can compare it as existing. We should have enough variation with the existing population to have some results. So that's why we're going to do quasi-experimental. There are ways you could do a fully experimental model, but it would be a lot more labor, a lot more cost, and it really probably wouldn't be worth it in the long run. So as I mentioned, we're going to be doing a post-test of the program and control. Any of the other designs, longitudinal studies and other, a pre-test with post-test, those are really not going to be very effective here simply because we're probably at program saturation. That's not to say that the police department or the city couldn't encourage more adoption of Neighborhood Watch, and maybe as a result of this study they would. But at this point, we're going to assume that we're at a reasonable level of saturation, and so we're not going to go out and find a bunch of neighborhoods to follow through the implementation of a Neighborhood Watch program. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to assume that we've got different levels of adoption in these different reporting districts here that you can see on the map, and compare their crime rates as with respect to their Neighborhood Watch programs and compare them to other districts. So data collection here, we are going to largely, most of this data is going to be pulled directly out of the police database. Of course, law enforcement keeps data on all of the crime reported, so we can access that information. The police department also has data on all of the Neighborhood Watch programs in the city. So we will, two of our variables we can collect directly from existing databases. And we can do it for multiple years, which is great too. Now, for some of our other variables, we won't be able to go back, but we can go back in those two primary variables, the Neighborhood Watch percentage coverage, as well as the relative theft rates. As one of my other variables is cameras, the number of security cameras in the neighborhood. So what we would do is we would conduct that with a walking survey, essentially send out staff with a clipboard essentially of basically randomly chosen, maybe 100 randomly chosen addresses within each reporting district. And then the goal would be to just say from the street or from a reasonable view of the front door, do you see on the home a security camera or anything that appears to be a security camera? And that would include your typical bullet camera, dome cameras, or even a Ring doorbell. The reason being that we want to do it in this kind of broad fashion is that the idea here being that it's more a deterrent than it is catching criminals and moving forward. Although it does have that purpose, we're looking at the deterrent factor. And if you can't see the cameras from the street, or at least within eye shot of the front door, then they're not really representing a visual deterrent. So that's what we're measuring here, and that we would get a fairly good representation of that factor doing, like I said, a street level walking survey of the neighborhood. That's about it, and these are my reference. Thank you for watching.